Okay, welcome everyone. As we are taken through this Masechta, sponsored by A.B. Spry for a full shalema for Taiba Raz the Bas Hinda, and for wonderful zivugim for their daughter and grandchildren, B'mheira. We are also sponsored anonymously for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel, Ben Bela, Shendel Rivka, and by Shelley Zeitlin for the schus of his children, Eli Orit and Ora, and for my refuah, Moshe Meir Ben Esther Fradel. We begin a little bit ahead over here, as we are holding by Vahaya Asher La'am, which is situated 9 lines from the top of Yudalin Amid Aleph. So the Gemara says that we said that from the words Asher La'am, we learn out that from the words that it says in the pasuk of Asher La'am, we learn out that the Kohanim don't get atonement from the Sarah Nasa B'fnim, because it says Asher La'am only for the people, the general people. So the Gemara says, but wait a second. That Asher La'am is needed to tell us something else. Why Asher La'am la'ach Yudasa? Hai mibayle de kamar rachman and b'de lahave. That the sor that's made b'fnim, in other words, the twin goats, must come from communal money, must come from the people. So the Gemara says, no, hahu me eisadas b'nei Yisrael nafka. That we learn from the eisadas b'nei Yisrael, from the assemblage of the Bnei Yisrael. Says the Gemara, v'hai asher loy lahachi uda'asa. The Gemara had thought that maybe Asher Lo tells us that the par of the Kohen Gadol is only mechaper for the Kohen Gadol. It's not, because it says Beisai, and that Beisai means all the Kohanim. But that was the Gemara's Havamina, that it's mechaper just for the Kohen Gadol. But isn't that needed to tell us that it comes from his personal funds? It comes from his personal funds. It doesn't come from the communal funds. So says Gemara, that it shouldn't come from the communal funds. Since it's mechaper for the Kohanim too, that it has to come from his personal funds. I might think that, well, it shouldn't come from anywhere else, but b'mhevi kosher, but b'di eved, if it's offered from someone else, it's okay. It says Asher Loi, and when the Torah repeats something, Shana Alav Akasav La'akev. The Torah repeats it to tell us that it must be from Aaron's funds. So, since that pasuk comes to tell you that it must be from Aaron's funds, why would we think that it's only mechaper for Aaron? So the Gemara says, Tana Hachika Kashalei. This is what was bothering the Tana. Why doesn't it atone for the rest of the people? Because it doesn't cost them anything. It's not coming from communal funds. Because excuse me. Why does the Sor Hanasa B'fnim not mechaper on the Kohanim? because it doesn't come from the money of the Kahanim. It comes from the regular people. So then, so then the carbon of Aaron, the par, also doesn't cost them anything because it says Asher Loi. It has to come from Aaron's personal money, from the Kohen Gadol's personal money. And the Gemara answers, you're right, but it does atone from them. Why? Because Amar Kulan Korean Basic, because the pasuk says that all of the Kohanim are called Basic, because it says Beis Aaron Baruch Hu Es Hashem. So we see that the entire assemblage of Kohanim are called Basic. Now, Bishleim and Reb Shimon, Hainu Dichsiv Trei Viduyin V'Dam Apar. That's why it says 2 confessions and the Damapar. The Damapar is mechaper for the Kohanim without vidui, on that which the Sora Nasa B'fnim is mechaper without vidui for the Yisraelim, which is yesh bo yedir b'tchila ve'ein bo yedir b'sayf. Then the vidui, the first vidui that it says by the par, tells you that the par is also mechaper for that which the Sora Hanasa B'chutz is mechaper for Yisraelim, which is Ein Bo Yedir B'tchila V'yesh Bo Yedir B'sayf. And the second vidui, according to Reb Shimon, tells it that it's mechaper for the Kohanim for other Averis, that the Sora Lazazel is mechaper for the Yisraelim. Chad keneged Sora Nasa B'fnim, the Chad keneged Sora Nasa B'chutz, the Chad keneged Sora Mishtaleach. Okay, that works out. However, El Rabbi Yehuda, Trei Viduyim V'Dam Apar Lamali. Remember, Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Sorla Azazel is mechaper for Shar Averis, even for the Kahana. So it begs the question, why do we need 2 viduis and the Damapar? Okay, the Damapar will be mechaper for what the Sor Hanas B'fnim is mechaper for Yesh Bo Yedir B'tchil Ve'ein Bo Yedir B'sayf. And 1 vidui is mechaper for that which the Sor Hanas B'chutz is mechaper for Ein Bo Yedir B'tchila V'yesh Bo Yedir B'sayf. But since the Sor La'azazel is mechaper for the Kahanim 2 for Shar Averis, so it doesn't need to have 2 confessions. B'chad Viduyoi V'dam Sagya. Says the Gemara, that's no problem. Echad Loi V'echad L'Beisai. First he confesses for himself, and then he confesses for the Kahanim. This is a Yesod, and that is, this applies in 2 areas in practical contemporary life. If, let's say, you shlug kaparas with chickens, and your wife, most women are afraid to hold the chicken. So you wave it around her head, and you say, Zeh kaparascha, right? It should be your kapara. The proper minig is you do it around your head first, and then you do it around your wife's head. Because let the tar come and do for the other. So first do for yourself, and then do for your wife. So here also, first Aaron says vidui for himself, and then afterwards he says vidui for the rest of the Kohanim. Another area where this is, on Erev Rosh Hashanah we do Hafaras Nedarim. Now most people think it's an honor if the person goes first, but really it's an honor to go last, because then the 3 judges already annulled their vows and their tar, and then they do it for him in a state of tara. It's an honor to go last, not an honor to go first. So let's see the Gemara inside. It says 2 viduis according to Rabbi Yehuda. echad loy ve'echad leveisai, one for himself and then one for the other kahanim. K'nitani debei Rabbi Yishmael, kachi midas hadin noi heges. This is the proper way to go about justice. Mutav yavai zakai v'yechaper alachayiv. Let the one who already is purified then atone for the one that is guilty. Val yavai chayiv v'yechaper alachayiv. So the Kohen Gadol first says vidui, he becomes a zakai, and then he does vidui for the rest of the shevet. Hadron alach shvuah shtayim, hadron alach shvuah shtayim, hadron alach shvuah shtayim. Okay, already Rabbi say, I already counted spheres, so I could say, what an auspicious thing to do on Lag BaOmer, to put a parak of shvuahs in the books. It's a very big thing to put a parak of shvuahs in the books. Big skos. We now I think we could already welcome in Shimon Klein, Ruvain Pollack, Barry Cement, Saba, Marshall Castle, Shalom Fogel, Dr. Guy, Irving Fishbaum, Mel Zachter, Stephen Holtzman, Chaim Lerner, Dov Salkowitz, Shelley Zeitlin. Who's there? Who's Google? Who's that? I don't see. Maybe it's Menachem Umansky. Eddie Chazan, Yaakov Warman, Nachman Chapler, Dr. Yudel, Mo Kushner, Michal. No, that's Menachem Umansky. Who's Google Pixel 8? Oh, you know who that is? That's probably Barry. No, it's not Barry Smith. I don't know who that is. Michal, Menachem Umansky, Naftali Jablin, Berish Gesserman, Abe Arbach, Danny Vogel, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Moshe Lehman, Yitzi Fuchs, David Helfgott, who's probably listening to us on Kol HaLashon. And what can I tell you, Rabbi Isai? This is one of the most auspicious days of the year. Hilula de Rab Shimon Bar Yochai. Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, it's called the Zohar because it gives a shine. And today is a particularly shining day, and our tefillas are very powerful on this day. We have a lot of people that could use refuah. I know that Aaron Swade called me earlier today to tell me that he's really needs a refuah. He's having a clotting problem in one lung. He has some kind of a clot. So, Aaron, yes?
Yes, Aaron Ben Sarah.
I was about to say Aaron Ben Sarah. We also have in mind for Nachman. Swallowing should be good. Nachman Yaakov Ben Sarah. I want to feel better and have a complete refuah. My Shmeir Ben Esther Fradel. And my Shver is struggling. Avigdor Ben Rivka. And Rivka Bashira Leah. Hinda Baskaya Sarah. They should all have a refuah shalema b'sek sharcha Yisrael. Now, new parak to be mekayim the mitzvah of a dibar tabam la'asei snachas ruach liyitzerna. There's no covet that we could give to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai more than learning Torah on Lag BaOmer. I know it's a big thing to light a bonfire, but if you have a choice to light a bonfire or learn Torah, I'm sure Reb Shimon Bar Yochai would be very happy if you're learning Lishma Hashem's Torah. So the Mishnah tells us, Yediyas HaTumah, awareness of Tumah is Shtayim Shein Arba, is two which make up four. Now remember, by Tumah, there is either that you forgot that you were Tumah and entered into the Mikdash, or you forgot that you were Tumah and ate Kachim, that's two. And then there's you forgot that it was the Mikdash, or you forgot that it was Kachim, and you knew that you were Tumah. So those are the Shtayim Shein Arba. Now, the Mishnah will add another scenario, and that is where our resident space cadet, Marshall, forgot that he was Tameh and also forgot that he was Mikdash. So he was clueless entirely, right? So says the Mishnah, Yediyas HaTumah Shtayim Shein Arba, awareness of Tumah 2, which are 4. Nitma, if Marshall became Tameh, V'yoda, he had initial awareness, V'nelma Mimenu, and then he forgot, V'nelma Mimenu HaTumah, but V'zocher Es HaKodesh, but he knew that it was Kachim, or Nela Mimenu Hektish. The other example is V'nela Mimenu HaKodesh, he forgot that it was Kodesh, but V'zocher Es HaTumah, and he remembered that it was Tumah. Or, as I said, where he forgot everything, right? Nelma Mimenu Zevazeh, he forgot it was Kachim, and he forgot he was Tumah. V'achal Es HaKodesh V'lo Yada, and when he ate the Kachim, he didn't know. Umisha Achal Yada, and then when he ate it, he became a Oy! Oy! We heard the Oy all the way from Chicago. He has to bring the sliding scale carbon. Now, the other thing is, Nitma, he became Tameh, V'yada, V'nelma Mimenu Tumah, he became unaware that he was Tameh, V'zocher Es HaMikdash, but he remembered that it was the base of Mikdash. Or, Nela Mimenu Mikdash, he forgot that he was in the Mikdash. He thought he was, in
at a hockey game.
In the Churba Shul, Nela Mimenu Mikdash, V'zocher Es HaTumah, but he remembered that he was Tameh. Or if he forgot everything, right? The default position, Nela Mimenu Zevazeh, he forgot that it was the Mikdash, and he forgot that he was Tameh. V'nichnas l'Mikdash v'lo Yada, he was unaware. Or Mishiyatza Yada, and when he came out, he knew. Arizeh ba'ilav Yored. Now, what part of the Mikdash? So here the Mishnah says, Echad ha'nichnas la'azara, whether he came into the temple courtyard, Ve'echad ha'nichnas l'toisvis ha'azara. Now, if you remember, we learned in detail that to add to the Azara, you had to do a whole procedure to add to the Azara or to the temple courtyard. She'emay sifin ala ir val Azaros, you can't add to the city of Yerushalayim more territory, or to the temple courtyard, Ela b'melech. It's a whole procedure. It's not just the zoning board. Ela b'melech, you need the king, the Navi, the prophet, the Urim v'Tumim, you need the Kohen Gadol with the Urim v'Tumim, which is in the folds of the Chayshin, the Sanhedrin shel Shivim v'Echad, and the entire Supreme Court, or b'shtei Saidos, and they have to be carrying the loaves of 2 Thanksgiving offerings, or b'shir, and with special song. Now, the procession is that Bezdin Ma'alchin, the Bezdin went first to the area that's being added, Ushtei Saidos Achrehen, and in this procession, the 2 loaves of the 2 Thanksgiving offerings went behind them, B'kol Yisrael Achrehen, and all of Klal Yisrael after them. Now,
why would they want to expand it?
Well, they needed more room. Klal Yisrael grew in census, and they came up La'aliyah L'Regel, and they needed more room.
But they didn't make more Mizbeach or anything else.
No, they needed more room. I know you're thinking of investing, but they have bigger fish.
The cement chapel.
Now, what?
Did they do this when they went to war? And
No, this has nothing to do with war.
Okay.
Now, Hapnimis Necheles, when they did the addition, the outer toida loaf is burned, and the inner toida loaf is eaten. We'll see in the Gemara why this is so. But Hapnimis Necheles, the inner loaf is eaten, V'achitzoyna nisrefes, and the outer loaf is burnt. The kol shaloi nasis b'kol elu, any annex that did not have all of these details, then that's not considered Kedushas Azara, and therefore Anichlos L'Sham, one who enters there, ain't Chayiv Aleh, is not Chayiv. Doesn't get Karas. He doesn't bring a carbon. Now, Nitma Ba'azara, let's say, and this could only happen to somebody like Marshall, right? Nitma Ba'azara, I just picked it out of a hat, Marshall. Nitma Ba'azara.
You gotta buy a new hat.
Nitma Ba'azara. If Marshall became Tomei in the Azar, Vinelma Mimenu Tuma, and it became, he forgot. And V'zocher es HaMikdash, and remembered that he was in the Azara. Or Nelam Heimenu Mikdash, he forgot, he thought he was in the lobby of the plaza. Nelam Heimenu Mikdash, he forgot he was in the Mikdash, V'zocher Atama. Or V'nelam Mimenu Zevazeh, and he bowed down there. That means that after he became Tomei, he bowed down, he stayed V'ishtachava, Oishashah B'chtei Hishtachava. Or he stayed there the time he could have bowed down, or he got out, but he got out the long way. Baloi Barucha, he took a circuitous route where he could have left in a quicker way. Chayiv. B'ktsara, but if he left in the most direct route, Potter. Now, the Mishnah now says, this is really tangential, but in Masechtas Huryas we learned that there is a Isser Koros, which is a mitzvah asay, something that you should do, that you're not, if Bezdin erroneously paskins the wrong psak, they won't bring a par helam davar shel tzibur. I know that's a mouthful. But let's say Bezdin paskins that, if you become tummy, you could go out a long way. Just go out. It's okay if you take a long way. Now, if the majority of Klal Yisrael did that, they wouldn't bring a carbon. Because you only bring a par helam davar shel tzibur on an aveira that you would be chayiv a regular chatas kavua, like Shabbos and Avodah Zarah and sleeping with a sister and eating chaylev and dam. But a aveira that brings a sliding scale carbon, Tumah is a sliding scale carbon, you don't bring a par helam davar shel tzibur. So this is Zui mitzvah asay shebamikdash she'ein chayovin oleh. Now the Ezuhi mitzvah asay shebenida shechayovin oleh. What's a mitzvah asay by nida that Bezdin, if they tell you to do something which is wrong, they are chayav a par helam davar shel tzibur. Now this is an interesting halacha. If a man is having relations, intimacy with his wife, and as he is in her, she tells him, I became a nida. The halacha is, it's counterintuitive, but the halacha is he shouldn't go out immediately. Because if he goes out when his aver is erect, when his organ is erect, he'll have pleasure in the going out. Rather, he has to stay stationary until he becomes limp and then go out. Because this way he won't benefit when he goes out. If Bezdin paskins, you should get out right away. Then Bezdin would bring a par helam davar shel tzibur. Because nida is an isser that you bring a chatas kavua for. And here they're telling to do something which is an isser kares. So ve'ezuhi, that's what the Gemara said, a very interesting case. We had this in Huryas. Ve'ezui mitzvahs asay shebenida shechayavin aleha, that you're chayiv on. If he was having intimacy with his wife when she was kosher. And while he is in her, she says, Nitmeisi, I became a nida, upirish miyad. If he goes out immediately, chayiv. Because because then his exit is pleasurable like when he went inside. So the correct thing to do is to wait, be stationary until the organ gets less excited, and then go out. If Sanhedrin were paskin, you should go out right away. In such a case, there would have to be brought a parhelim davar shel tzibur. Now, we're going to now have other opinions. Rebbe Eliezer Eimer,
Rabbi Weiss,
yes.
Basin needs to bring a par helam davar tzibur for a single person's problem.
No, the majority. If they passing this for the majority,
Oh, that is a very rare case that for the majority to have something like that. Okay,
right.
got it.
Rebbe Eliezer Eimer, Rebbe Eliezer says, Hasheretz v'nela mimenu, if he becomes unaware about the sheretz, in other words, about the tumah. So Rebbe Eliezer disagrees that you're chayiv if you became unaware that it's kachim or if it was the mikdash. Al helam sheretz chayiv, ve'ena chayiv al helam mikdash. Rabbi Kiva says v'nela mimenu v'hu tameh. Rabbi Kiva says if he became aware and he's unaware and he's tameh, al helam tumah chayiv. Only if you become unaware of the tumah. Ve'ena chayiv al helam mikdash. You're not chayiv on being unaware if it's the mikdash. Rabbi Shmuel says v'nelam shtei pa'amim, unaware 2 times. L'chayev al helam tuma, if you're unaware that it's tamei, v'al helam mikdash, or if you're unaware that it was the mikdash, or if you're unaware that it's kach. Now, we have a problem over here. Amar Papa, labaya shtayim shein arba. Isn't it shtayim shein sheish? Because when you're unaware, there's a case where you're unaware of the tumah. In the beginning of the end, you're unaware of the mikdash. Excuse me. You're aware of the tumah in the beginning and you're aware of the tumah in the end. You're aware of the kachim in the beginning and you're aware of the kachim in the end. Or you're aware in the mikdash in the beginning and you're aware of the mikdash at the end. So really, is it shtayim shein arba? It's shtayim shein sheish avim. It's 2 which are 6. Yedias ha-tumah tchila v'seif. Yedias ha-kodesh tchila v'seif. That you knew it was the kachim in the beginning, then you knew at the end. And Yedias mikdash tchila v'seif. Says the Gemara, well, if that's true, then it shouldn't be 2 that are 6. It should be 2 that are 8. U'letamech tam yahavyan. Do'iket tumah de kodesh and tumah de mikdash tchila v'seif. Right? Because you were aware that you were tameh in the beginning, then you're aware that you were tameh at the end in a case of kachim, and aware that you were tameh in the beginning and aware that you were tameh in the end in the case of the mikdash. So that's another extra. So it should be 2 that are 8. Tumah de kodesh but tumah de mikdash tchila v'seif in the beginning of the end. So the Gemara says that didn't bother us so much because tumah is the same name. So whether it's you wear the tummy in the beginning, you wear the tummy at the end by kachim, or you wear the tummy in the beginning, tummy in the end by the mikdash, that's all the shem tumah. Haloi kasha shem tumah achasi. Mikol makom shizavin. Amra papa la'olam tamya. Really, it's taka 8. Yediyah of tumah in the beginning, yediyah of tumah in the end, and you forgot in the middle by kachim. Yediyah Tumah in the beginning and Yediyah Tumah in the end, and you forgot it was the Mikdash. Yediyah Tumah in the beginning, Yediyah Tumah in the end, and you forgot that you were Tameh, but it was Kachim. Or Yediyah Tumah in the end, Yediyah Tumah in the beginning, and you forgot it was the Mikdash. So there's 8 cases. However, the initial Yediyah in the beginning, that doesn't make you chayav a carbon, it doesn't count. Abaya arba kamaisa, the loy maisin lately day carbon that don't bring you to a carbon like kachashim. Ababa traisa, when you realize it at the end, so that's when you're chayav a carbon oil yared, the maisin lately day carbon that kachashim. And now we have another opinion, the reverse. The chiddush over here is that you have to have a yediyah betchila. Normally, by regular sins, that's not true. For example, if you ate a piece of chaylev, the main thing is that you realized afterwards you ate chaylev. You realized afterwards you ate dam. You didn't have to know beforehand that it was chaylev and then forget and then realize it again. This that you need to have a yediyah betchila, that's a big chiddush. The fact that you need to know before you forgot, that's not true by the rest of Torah. But the realization of the sin that brings you to bring the carbon, which is by all cases, that like kachashiv. So now, the Gemara asks a very interesting question. Boira Papa. Nelmu mimenu hilchas tumamahu. What if he was unaware of the laws of Tumah? Unaware what's the din in such a case? In other words, he knew that he touched the sheretz, but he didn't know that a sheretz was a problem. Does that make him, is that considered a yediyah betchila? It's Nelma mimenu hilchas tumah ma'u. Says Gemara, heichi dami. Ilay medelo yadai sheretz tamei itzvar deya tamei. If it is talking about, one of the Shmeina Shratzim is a toad, a tzav. Now, he wasn't sure if it was the toad that's tamei or a frog that's tamei. We wouldn't even know, us city folk wouldn't even know the difference between a toad and a frog. But he didn't know whether the toad was tamei or the frog. He touched the toad, which is one of the Shmeina Shratzim, which is tamei. But he didn't know. Zil Kari Beirav. This is an interesting response. Go and learn it in school. If that was what he was unaware of, since that's something that one can learn in yeshiva, that can't be considered being unaware. That is considered like he was aware, because he should have known it in school, and therefore, since that's the case, then because that's an open pasuk, so since that's the case, he would definitely be chayiv a carbon oil of yared. Says the Gemara, la'olam diyada b'tumah sheretz. He knows that a toad is tamei. But, you see, the shear of shratzim is a different shear. Normally, the shear of tumah is the shear of a kazayas. But when it comes to a sheretz, the shear is a lentil. Now, that's not an open pasuk. He touched a lentil size of the toad. V'lo yada kadasha imetame iloi metame. Now, is that considered Yediyah B'tchila, because he knew he touched it? Kevin the Yada Mitar Shemetz Ba'olam Yediyahi, and then he could be Chayiv a carbon. Or Dilma Kevin the Kadasha Lo Yada Imetame Iloi Metame. He didn't know if it's the share of a lentil, if it's tummy or not. It's not considered a Yediyah B'tchila, a Halamahi, and then he wouldn't be Chayiv a carbon. So it's really very appropriate that we should have on the Yotzar of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Teku, Tishbi Yataretz, Kushas V'Bayis. May that come soon, the coming of Mashiach. Now, Boy Reb Yirmiyah. It's amazing that Marshall is playing with balloons. Unbelievable. Where'd we pick him up?
He didn't know in Yeshiva he was absent that day, Rabbi Weiss.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
It's my anniversary. I gotta play with balloons.
Happy anniversary. You got married on my Baimer?
I did, and so did my wife. It was a good deal.
Really? Your wife got married the same day as you?
Yeah, it was surprising.
Who is in between Shelley and Eddie under Dr. Guy? Who is that? I see your hand now. Who is that? Can't figure it out. Google Pixel 8.
It's the unknown that you're going to use.
Anyway, says the Gemara, another case. Boy Reb Yirmiyah ben Bavel she'olol Eretz Yisrael, a Babylonian that went up to Eretz Yisrael. V'nela mimenu mekay mikdash, and the location of the mikdash wasn't known to him. He didn't, he's never been there before. He's a tourist. Mao. Says the Gemara, well, Ali b'demand. Ali b'Rabbi Kiva d'Bar Yediyah b'Tchila, who holds that you need to have a Yediyah in the beginning, right? In other words, Rabbi Kiva says in the Mishnah, Rabbi Kiva Imavinela Mimenu v'Tomei Al Helam Tuma Chayev Ve'ena Chayev Al Helam Mikdash, and you're not Chayev if you became unaware of the Mikdash. So therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, the fact that he's unaware of the Mikdash does not make him chayiv a carbon. So it wouldn't be a shayla according to Rabbi Akiva. If it's going according to Rabbi Yishmael, who holds he's chayiv when he's unaware of the Mikdash, but Rabbi Yishmael holds that you don't need a Yediyah B'tchila. You don't need an awareness in the beginning. In order to be chayiv a carbon, you don't need to be aware in the beginning. So it makes no difference whether he knew or not. Says, the question is, according to Rebbe, he holds that you need to have awareness in the beginning, and he holds that you're chayiv if you were unaware that it was the mikdash. Here the question is, the fact V'amar Yediyah space Rabba Shma Yediyah, and he holds that having awareness from yeshiva that you're not allowed to be tummy in the mikdash is considered a Yediyah. Since Kavan the Yodidi Mikdash Ba'olam, since he knows that there is a mikdash and that you're not allowed to be tummy there, so that's enough that it's considered Yediyah. Dilma, since he's a greener, And Kevin the Mekaymei lo Yadalei, since he didn't know that this is the place of the Mikdash, Halamahi, it's considered being unaware, and since he was unaware in the beginning, he can't be chayiv a carbon, and then he wouldn't be chayiv a carbon Eilav Yared. Or do we say, like we said in the beginning, the fact that the Torah says there's a place of the Mikdash, and he learned about it in yeshiva, and he was there in the place, maybe that's enough of a yediyah that it should be considered that it's a yediyah b'tchila, and then he would be chayiv. Teku tishbi ataretz kushis v'ibais. Okay, Rabbi said we're now going to have the segment known as for the Shabbos table.